Whispered Facts video, which today is going to be covering the 1993 classic kids spectacular movie, Hocus Pocus. Now, just before we get started, I have to admit I have never actually seen this movie in full, which I know is a crime, but I do recall parts of it, and I'm going to make a point of watching it this Halloween. I know it's a very popular Halloween movie, so I figured it would be ideal for a Whispered Facts video this Halloween season. And additionally, I will also be giving some of my own opinions throughout the video on some of the facts. So, it is time to lay back, relax, and let yourself drift away as I whisper facts about Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus is a 1993 American fantasy comedy film directed by Kenny Ortega and written by Neil Cuthbert and Mick Garris. The film follows a villainous comedic trio of witches played by Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy, who are inadvertently resurrected by a teenage boy in Salem, Massachusetts on Halloween night. The film was released in July 1993 to take advantage of children being off from school during the summer. Avoiding competition with The Nightmare Before Christmas, Disney's other Halloween release that year, may have also played a part. The film received mixed reviews from film critics at the time of its release. It was not a critical or commercial success upon its release, possibly losing Disney around $16.5 million during its theatrical run. However, largely through many annual airings on Disney Channel and other channels all throughout the month of October annually, Hocus Pocus has been rediscovered by audiences, resulting in a yearly spike in sales of the film every Halloween season. I think it's interesting that it was released in July of 1993, even if the reason was to avoid a rival movie being released in October. It still seems an odd time to release a Halloween-themed movie, and that was initially why it didn't do so well. But of course, that's all changed as time has went by, and it's really gathered a substantial fan base over the years. I think I'm quite fussy when it comes to watching a movie out of season. I wouldn't fancy seeing a Halloween movie during the summer. It would just feel kind of wrong, I think. I don't think I'd watch anything Halloween or Christmas themed unless it was that time of year, but of course it's completely up to the individual. That's just my sort of opinion on it. Hocus Pocus was filmed over the course of 5 months in Salem, Massachusetts, and numerous other locations. Filming started on October the 12th, 1992, and finished on February the 10th, 1993. Speaking of Salem, the animatronic cat would later be used in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the Nickelodeon TV show, and was called Salem. I loved that cat on Sabrina. I haven't actually seen that show in many years, actually. I guess you just grow up and grow out of things. It being primarily aimed at teenagers at the time. During a 20th must admit. I'm going to have to look this scene up, I think. It's hard to imagine how an actor could actually have real moths in their mouth. So I'm actually quite fascinated to see how that turns out on screen, if they were in fact real moths. Sarah Jessica Parker has said that she found being in the flying broom harness so comfortable that instead of being lowered back to the ground during the extended downtime between certain takes, she would stash a copy of the New York Times on her to read while remaining suspended in the air. That's a funny fact, really. I think that's all well and good until you need to go to the bathroom and then you discover nobody is around to lower you to the ground because they're all off having a break. The role of Max Dennison was originally offered to Leonardo DiCaprio. He turned it down to appear in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and I'm not sure Leo regrets that decision too much. He's had an absolutely stellar career to date. I'm not sure he's actually appeared in a bad movie. Every time I look up a movie that he's in, it's got a very high rating, so I think things worked out pretty well for him. During a February 10th, 2008 interview on the BBC show Breakfast, Bette Midler stated that this was her favourite of all films that she's appeared in. Her other favourite film role, according to her autobiography, Bette Midler Still Divine, was voicing the poodle Georgette in Oliver and Company in 1988. The city of Salem, Massachusetts, used the film as a theme for the opening parade of their 2018 Haunted Happenings to coincide with the film's 25th anniversary. The local National Park Service office made a doll of Winifred dressed in one of their uniforms, while the Saltonstall School made a float based on Thackeray. Disney bought the script in 1984, then sat on the project for 8 years. The original title was Disney's Halloween House and was supposed to be much darker and scarier. Rumors that Disney considered turning it into a made-for-TV movie at one point have spread over the internet, but have not been confirmed by the cast and crew. I think I'm glad it wasn't made for TV. I think in general, made-for-TV movies don't turn out as good as sort of Hollywood-style movies, which is probably due to a lower budget a lot of the time. Sean Murray played the human Thackeray Binks. Although American, he had been living in Australia and picked up the Australian accent. He was dubbed over by Jason Marsden, voice of the cat Binks, for consistency and because Marsden had a more old world sounding voice. Several scenes appear in the various original trailers that are not included in the released version of the film. They include Mary and Sarah pushing Winifred into the school swimming pool, the witches being surrounded by trick-or-treaters holding out their hands, the witches meeting up with Billy only to complain about his foul stench, Mary and Winifred inspecting the school's lockers, and scenes from movies. In a lot of cases, you can see why those scenes were deleted, often sort of slowing up the pace of the story. But in others, you think, why didn't they include that scene? Because it's so good. But yeah, one of those that comes to mind is a scene in Titanic when Jack fights Lovejoy in the dinner hall. And I think it sort of explains why Lovejoy was bloodied during the sinking scene towards the end, which is quite fascinating. I really like that deleted scene that's just kind of popped into my head whilst we're discussing deleted scenes from Hocus Pocus. Sarah Jessica Parker plays a witch who was executed during the Salem witch trials. While researching her family history for the show, Who Do You Think You Are?, Parker was shocked to discover that her 10th great-grandmother, Esther Elwell, was arrested in Salem, Massachusetts in the late 1600s for committing sundry acts of witchcraft and choking a neighbour to death. Esther's case never went to court. She escaped with her life, and the accusation ended the Salem witch trials. Parker said, "It has changed everything about who I thought I was." Contrary to a popular rumour, the song Sarah Sanderson sings from the sky was not written by Edgar Allan Poe, nor does it carry the style or meters he would have used. It was written specifically for the film by composer James Horner. And James Horner is a composer I'm very familiar with, having composed music for many great movies, including, just off the top of my head, Titanic, Braveheart. I think he did Avatar as well, Aliens, and yeah, many more. And those are just a few that have sort of kept me off the top of my head, but sadly he died in a crash in, I think, 2015, I believe, whilst flying a small aircraft. Rhythm and Hughes, who created the CGI Thackeray Binks, went to great lengths to ensure that his facial features were those of an actual cat. The studio found it too realistic, notably the fangs and teeth, and felt that he might be too scary and sinister for a younger audience. To make him appear friendlier, Rhythm and Hughes made his fangs smaller and less pointed. Omri Katz was unwell at the time of his first audition and was initially rejected for the role of Max. When Bette Midler takes to the stage at the town Halloween party, she says, "Hello Salem, my name is Winifred, what's yours?" This is a takeoff the famous line, "Hello everybody, my name is Rose, what's yours?" spoken by Madame Rose in the musical Gypsy. Midler played Madame Rose in the television version of Gypsy in 1993, the same year this film was released. And I think that may be the scene that I'm most familiar with in this movie. I think that's the scene when she sings "I Put a Spell on You," and it literally casts a spell on everybody on the dance floor, who are then unable to stop dancing. I do recall that scene, and I think that is the scene that I'm most familiar with in this movie. Although not specified, it makes sense that Binks can't speak until the black flame candle has been lit, and then only with Sanderson sisters have returned. The last witch trial in the New England witchcraft scare was of a mother and daughter, both named Winifred, surname Benham, in 1697. Winifred Sr.'s mother was named Mary Hale and was also accused of witchcraft. In a 2015 interview on Today, Kathy Najimy said she was initially reluctant to take the role of Mary, afraid she would offend real witches by stereotyping a fictitious fairy tale witch. Thackeray Binks was animated by filming the scenes with a real cat and replacing its head with a computer-generated model. The cemetery set was filmed at the largest soundstage at the Walt Disney Studios. Real birch and elm trees from the East Coast were uprooted and moved to the set. Early in the film, Mary says to Winifred, "Winifred, thou art divine." Bette Midler is known for her nickname, the Divine Miss M. Sarah Jessica Parker and Bette Midler co-starred together in The First Wives Club, released in 1996. Parker's character played the younger woman Midler's husband left her for. And that's another movie I haven't actually seen, but I know someone who absolutely loves that movie and has seen it many, many times. There are plenty of movies I've seen countless times, so many times I could probably recite the entire script. I think that's the case for a lot of us. We all have our favourites that we watch endlessly. Hocus Pocus was the first Disney production to use digital visual effects. That's quite an interesting fact. I would have thought that it probably would have been sooner than 1993, but there you go. It was in fact the first Disney production to use digital effects, and I'm sure from that point on it got used more and more in the films that have followed. The three little girls who steal the witch's brooms from in front of the house are dressed as the sisters themselves. Winifred has red hair and a green cape. Mary has black hair and a red cape. And Sarah has blonde hair and a purple cape. On the Hocus Pocus 25th anniversary Halloween bash, Sarah Jessica Parker revealed that she actually ate the spider. And that is another scene that I would actually be similar to the moths in the mice scene. Yeah, I'd actually be really curious to see that scene, so I'm going to have to remember that and look it up on YouTube a bit later on to see what this spider was like that she actually ate. Rosie O'Donnell was originally offered the role of Mary Sanderson. Rosie claims on her blog that she turned down the offer to work with Bette Midler because she didn't want to be a scary witch. I think Rosie is more sort of suited to bubbly kind of characters like Betty Rubble, which comes to mind from the Flintstones, which was released the year after Hocus Pocus, I believe. I know that movie got really bad ratings, but I actually enjoyed it a lot, and I still have a soft spot for it as well. When Billy Butcherson's fingers get confusing, I think. The film takes place on October 31st, 1693, and from October 31st to November 1st, 1993. At Satan's house, the commercial with the baby playing is an actual commercial for stain-resistant carpet. And I think that's quite an interesting fact that they actually played a real-life commercial on the TV. The ballad hit Almost Unreal by Swedish pop duo Roxette was originally meant to be included in the movie's soundtrack. It was dropped and used in Super Mario Brothers instead, which I actually recently tried to watch, having not seen it since childhood, but unfortunately I just couldn't get into it, and I think I turned it off after about 45 minutes or so. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. In 2018, toy makers Funko produced a set of their popular pop vinyl figures based on the film. The series includes all three Sanderson sisters and were sold exclusively through Spirit Halloween stores. Legally speaking, because the man on the motorcycle did not identify himself as not being a cop, he could have gotten in trouble. Laws against impersonating a peace officer do not prohibit someone from dressing as one for Halloween, but they do prevent someone from letting others believe they are a cop. Max and the others were clearly trying to inform an authority figure of a situation, however crazy it may seem, so the fact that the man led them on is actually a violation of the law. Yeah, there are some really crazy laws in existence, I think, such as if you cause harm to an intruder in your home, you are liable and could face charges, which I've always thought was a crazy law that's just sort of came into my head there now as we're talking about laws. It's kind of a funny one. During the scene where the Sanderson sisters are singing I Put a Spell on You, a clown can be seen in the party audience. He has red hair, a bald cap, a green tie, a red and white striped shirt, and blue jean overalls. At first, this would appear to be just a generic clown, but actually, he's dressed as Malcolm, as he performed Cliff's stunt show routine in The Rocketeer, also made by Disney in 1991. Oh wow, I haven't actually thought about The Rocketeer in many years. I remember loving that movie as a kid, and yeah, the I Put a Spell on You scene was the one I mentioned earlier, the scene I'm most familiar with in Hocus Pocus. The cast of Hocus Pocus got back together for a virtual reunion special in October 2020, hosted by Bette Midler to benefit the New York Restoration Project. The one-time only event was made available only to fans who bought tickets to watch that night. Midler, Kathy Najimy, Sarah Jessica Parker, Doug Jones, and other stars from the movie were featured along with special guests like Jamie Lee Curtis, Meryl Streep, Glenn Close, Billy Crystal, Adam Lambert, and many others. Yeah, there were a lot of sort of online reunions in 2020 due to they sound like a lot of fun. It's always fun to remember good times and share stories back when the movie was made. The stitches keeping Billy's mouth shut are sewn in the pattern of XIII, the Roman numerals for 13. During the costume party scene, a guest is dressed as a character from Tron, another Disney movie. He can be seen in the background when Billy is trying to grab Max, and then in the end of the song after Winifred sings Dance Until You Die. When Ice and the others are bullying Max and his sister, they call him the new kid on the block, which is a reference to the popular and contemporary early 1990s boy band. Now, there's a band I haven't heard of for a long, long time. I can't recall any of their songs, but I remember my sister and her friends liking that band, as well as other British bands such as E17 and Take That. They're sort of true vintage 1990s boy bands. And one final thing to mention, guys, there is actually a sequel planned for the release in 2022 and currently in development as a Disney Plus original film directed by Anne Fletcher. So if you're a fan of the original Hocus Pocus movie, keep an eye out for that. But that is just about it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this Whispered Facts video on the subject of Hocus Pocus. And if you did enjoy the video, as always, I would appreciate if you hit the like button, as it helps the channel to grow. Consider subscribing if you're new, and also hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on any of my upcoming fact videos. But thank you for joining me, and until next time, rest easy, sleep well, and I hope to see you again very soon for another video, and goodbye for now.